Avoidant Personality Disorder, also known as AVPD, by Kayla Meisner and Faith Hall. What is avoidant personality disorder? It's characterized by social discomfort, which means they tend to avoid intimate relationships and social contact. They're sensitive to negative criticism and rejection. They have significant problems that affect the ability to interact with others and maintain relationships in their day-to-day life. They also have a very low threshold for criticism, and they often imagine themselves to be inferior to others.
Also, we found in the textbook that they are socially inhibited and prone to feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and shame. These individuals feel inadequate and hold back in social situations. They have unrealistic standards for their own behavior and avoid setting goals, taking personal risks, or pursuing new activities.
So the different symptoms that they tend to experience, a person with AVPD tends to avoid work, social, or school activities because they're scared of getting rejected or criticized. They have a very low self-esteem. They tend to self-isolate themselves. They are extremely shy. They're fear of ridiculed, which means they are scared of being mocked or made fun of, which goes hand in hand with being overly concerned with looking foolish. They don't want to be embarrassed by their actions, and they also have a hard time getting to know new people, so they tend to just stay by themselves.
How is it diagnosed? They have a hard time going to work. They avoid work and activities that involve contact with others. This is due to the fear of criticism, disapproval, or rejection. They are unwilling to get involved with other people unless they're sure that they like them. They have a hard time holding back in relationships because they're afraid that they'll also be ridiculed or humiliated. They don't ever want to take a step forward. They have the fear of being criticized or rejected in social situations, which also dominates their thoughts of people. They hold back or completely avoid social situations because of feeling inadequate, thinking they're inferior to others, unappealing, and inept, and also unlikely to take part in new activities or to take personal risks because they're afraid of embarrassment. And also, to even be diagnosed, they must have at least 4 of the following things, and they have to be diagnosed by a doctor. It isn't something you can diagnose yourself.
So how common is it? AVPD is pretty rare. Less than 200,000 cases are in the United States per year, which is less than 1% of the population. And so there are a few different types of treatments that they can get. One of them is cognitive behavioral therapy, desensitization, and psychodynamic psychotherapy. And although there is no medication to treat AVPD, doctors often recommend antidepressants to help with the anxiety and depression, so they have an easier time communicating with people.
So here are the therapies more broken down. The cognitive behavioral therapy is a talk therapy, which is focused on modifying the negative thoughts, the behaviors, and the emotional responses associated with the psychological distress that they're feeling. The desensitizational is the psychological treatment that reduces fear and anxiety by gradually exposing the person to what they're afraid of. And the psychotherapy is a treatment of mental or behavioral disorders through talk therapy.
So what are the causes? There are 2 different types of causes for people with AVPD. That's their genetics and the environment. So with the genetics, it's usually passed down by parents, and sometimes it's called temperament. And then the environment, it just depends on your surroundings with the people you grew up with, the events that occurred, and then the relationships with family members. Sometimes it is a mix of both. The genes make a person vulnerable to developing that personality disorder, but the life situation may trigger the actual development. And this is for more than just AVPD. It's for a lot of the personality disorders out there.
And for the risk factors, although the precise cause of personality disorders is not known, certain factors seem to increase the risk of developing or triggering personality disorders, including the family history of personality disorders or other mental illness, like abusive, unstable, or chaotic family life during childhood, being diagnosed with childhood conduct disorder, or variations in brain chemistry and structure, which we also found in the Mayo Clinic thing that was also with the list of all the personality disorders that we also found relate, which was really interesting. And one of the celebrities we found with AVPD, which was Kim Basinger, she was also really famous, and she was diagnosed when she was younger. She had a really hard time and was struggling. She was like a model and was in a lot of movies such as 8 Mile, Charlie St. Cloud, and Batman, and then one of her more famous ones, which was Panic, and it was a movie about coping, and this also, of course, really helped her. And years after filming the movie, she received an Oscar and opened up about herself, and she had spoken out about her struggle from childhood with avoidant personality disorder, which eventually she learned to manage her AVPD through her therapy.
Statistics. The main component of AVPD is the belief an individual will be negatively evaluated or humiliated in a social setting. An estimate of 1.5 to 2.5% of people in the United States have AVPD, and avoidant personality disorder was thought to be a type of social anxiety disorder, but now it's recognized that they are two different disorders, but they are similar in many ways and can often co-occur in the same person.
We also found statistics that's also really interesting. About 2.5% of the population meet the eligibility requirements for a diagnosis, which is like a really low amount. So we thought that was interesting since it is so rare. And the rate for avoidant personality cases is about 3.6%. 1.4% of males have it, and then 2.5% of females actually have the disorder.
So, what's the difference between social anxiety and avoidant personality disorder? They seem pretty similar, but they're very different. So, people with social anxiety tend to have a higher self-esteem in other areas, but they still fear embarrassment or rejection, where avoidant personality disorder, they believe that they're inferior to others, and therefore rejection and humiliation are inevitable, and they think that they deserve the humiliation that they're going to receive.
Whereas social anxiety get triggered when someone watches them do something, harmless teasing occurs, or focus moves to them, or they have to speak in public, versus where avoidant personality disorder, when they're likely to be hypersensitive to criticism, have few or no friends, experience extreme fear about social events, or they exaggerate like their life challenges.
So this is a video we found on YouTube that we thought was kind of interesting and better explained AVPD better.
I'm Dr. Ben Michaelis, and this is 1 Minute Diagnosis. Today I will be talking about avoidant personality disorder. A person with avoidant personality disorder is someone who is socially inhibited, feels inadequate, and is very sensitive to the negative evaluations of others. To be diagnosed with avoidant personality disorder, a person must exhibit 4 of the following 7 behaviors. They avoid work activities where they have to be around other people. They do not develop friendships or other relationships unless they know in advance that they are going to be liked. They hold back in close relationships and hide their true feelings out of a fear that they will be shamed or put down. They worry that they will be criticized or rejected in public. They inhibit themselves when creating new friendships because they feel inadequate. They view themselves as personally unappealing, beneath others, and socially awkward. And they are reluctant to try out new activities out of a fear that they will result in embarrassment. And that's avoidant personality disorder in a minute. For other diagnoses.
So we think that that video just kind of explained what ABPD was a little bit better to help us get like a better understanding. And yeah.
So that was our project. We thought we learned a lot from it, and we had a lot of fun with it, and it was super interesting, and we hope you guys learned something from it. We've had a lot of fun learning about all the topics and the differences, and it's crazy how many different personality disorders there are. So yeah, that's that. So thank you.